Welcome to Open Bar Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Tambo. We're here with Open Bar Ben, and we are live. Okay.
Live.
Open Bar Ben in 2019 came up with the idea that we needed to stream live. He felt that the world is trending in this direction, right? And we have seen the fantasy baseball is trending in this direction. We're fresh off of Potapalooza, where we were able to do charity and donate to a very worthy cause. That was a good time. So we are moving on. We are tired of chasing our tails in the podcast realm. Everyone has a podcast these days. Now, we're not giving up on that. We're not giving up on the podcast. We're going to air these recordings in the same manner that we always have, but we are going to do this in a live format via YouTube, via Periscope, and Twitter if you'd like to watch us there. Ben, you're the smartest guy I know. So this is going to work, right?
Something doesn't seem right here. Something's not right. I suggested, I don't know if this was an idea that I had, but I'm going to reference I forget who put the poll out there. How do you want your fantasy baseball content? How do you want to ingest your fantasy baseball content? You had podcasts, audio only, video, and articles. And the video scored like 20%, and the other two were neck and neck. So I figure, we're in the age of coronavirus, might as well do it now. And we're like new wave. We're ahead of the curve, which I've never been ahead of the curve. So this is new. This is uncharted territory for me.
Literally never in our life have you been ahead of the curve. But you're right. I think people are searching for content right now, searching for anything to watch. This is a good time to make this move. Thank you. I'm going to say thank you.
Wow, this is like Bizarro World.
I'll delete it. I'll edit that out.
I'm really uncomfortable right now.
I'll edit it out.
Uncomfortable. But I will say this. This is a tad bit of redemption, a shot at redemption for me personally after the bomb that happened on Justin's Potapalooza.
We struggled mightily.
Both of us. Right. And we would probably have, him to thank for that. That was a great idea. And so we're kind of implementing that format.
Right. It's just a stepping stone. Why not get better at one of the worst things we've ever done as a podcast, right? Yep. But I think the point here
no better way to figure out how to swim than when you're drowning.
There you go. I like it. That's a good quote. But here's the point. Here's the point that I really want to make with this, okay? We're willing to sit down with any of you, whether it's a fan, a listener, another analyst. You're able to come on here and ask questions on the message board if you like. We will do our best to produce a podcast, produce a live feed, and get to those questions if need be. And at the same time, if that doesn't happen, I did decide for the first at least 5 shows or so, I will remember those questions. I will reference those later and get back to you personally, one-on-one. I will get to those questions. That's my promise to you as we get started through this, okay? Because there will be bumps in the road as we're learning and trying to get better at this. But I do want you to reach out to us, okay? If you got 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you have a question and a camera and a microphone, you can sit in with us, okay? I can let you in, we'll ask your question, and we'll do our best to provide you an on-the-spot answer, okay? That's completely unique in the fantasy baseball world. It's a little dangerous.
And possibly totally wrong.
It's a little risky. So it'll be interesting, okay? So I'm excited for this completely. But for today, okay, we have a listener leagues announcement. We got a couple news and notes on the current state of baseball in general. Not a lot has changed there, but there was a couple announcements. I think we're going to hear something very soon. And then we shortchanged you guys on our position preview when it comes to closers, right? Relief pitchers. I think we did that hour and a half. We went long. We talked about a lot of positions. Right at the end, we had 4 minutes left to do closers. We raced through it. We didn't provide content that you guys needed. We actually don't have a better picture of it at this point. Okay. I wanted to be able to do that when we had a better idea of who these closers might be, but we're going to do a lot of closers today. Ben, are you ready?
Yes, groovy. I'm ready.
So
Just hang it out.
I'm going to start right away with the Listeners League. Okay. There's still room for our Listeners League. It's a free league. Okay. We had 2 guys back out. Okay. I totally understand the fact that people stay engaged when there's money at stake. Okay. But I don't feel comfortable at this point to take anyone's money when there's so many variables if we get a season. Now, I do believe we'll have a season in 2020, but there's so much up in the air. I suppose you could argue that screw it, let's just do it, and may the best man win. But I don't feel comfortable doing that in a listeners league at this time. So we did have a couple guys back out when they discovered it was a free league, but it is going to be an auction league, 5x5 roto. There still is openings. So if you're interested in that, feel free to reach out at Open Bar Dudes. Ben, you have any content on that?
No, I mean, you did say take people's money. I mean, we could be just giving it back. I mean,
I'm going to rake.
I've heard that. I've heard that before. Yeah, fantastic. That's a good positive attitude. I like it.
I totally understand the point on it. Okay, like if there's something, you're just more invested when you're actually putting dollars down. I totally get it. We're not going to do that in the Listeners League. We didn't do it last year in the Vampire League, so I do not want to do that at this time. That sounds fair, right?
Fair enough.
Right.
I'm not going to cry about it.
Now, moving on, we'll jump right into our news and notes. Did you see that the World Baseball Classic has been postponed? Like that wasn't even going to be in 2020. That was going to be in 2021. It's now been postponed to 2023.
I'm fine with it.
Really?
That never flipped my switch really in the least. I would rather in fact, I'd rather have the guys that are in that be preparing in spring training. I'm the old school traditionalist, I guess, but it was never a big draw for me.
That's really interesting.
Cool with that. This is gonna probably, if they go longer. I know they're talking about 80 games right now, but you know it's going to be a jacked up season, probably a jacked up off season. So totally fine with that. Doesn't bother me in the least. Probably the best decision.
I do understand that point. There's just so much uncertainty going on right now. Why not postpone it? Like you don't want to draw from all over the country and put them all in the same spot.
Well, yeah. Let's just put them in a big blender and mix it all up. Yeah, man.
I do understand that, but I actually very much enjoyed the World Baseball Classic because I never seen those men have more fun on the baseball field with my eyes. Right? They could probably always point to little league games or high school years or title runs, playoff runs or whatever. But those men out on the field every single game were having a blast for all countries. The Dominican guys just had a blast. The USA had a great time. I loved it. I did love the format. I didn't mind that it interrupted the season at all. I didn't mind that at all.
Yeah, I mean. And that's a good perspective. To me, it's just like how many games was it? It's like 20 All-Star games in a row, and it just doesn't. Yeah, they're having fun, but are they playing for keeps? Most people aren't. Most of them aren't. I got that impression. I mean, yeah, it's some bragging rights. It's just. It's meh.
Not for you.
Not. It's not my bag, baby. You know?
What I found that really interesting is 2020. Now we're not going to get another WBC for another 3 years. Okay, it's almost like that seems so far away from me. So I am disappointed that that's not going to happen for another 3 years.
Well, maybe by then I'll really kind of go, oh wow, maybe that will be. Yeah, that's.
You'll miss it.
Yeah,
you'll miss it.
You don't know what you got until it's gone.
You don't know what you got. I'm not singing the rest.
Don't
I'm
do
not
that.
singing the
No,
rest.
Yeah, that was already too much.
So, okay, this was a really interesting tidbit I read yesterday. 5,600 players and personnel tested for COVID, and less than 1%, exactly 0.7% of those 5,600 tested positive, okay, for this coronavirus that we're dealing with. That's a pretty large sample size, I would argue. How do you think, in your opinion, going forward, if someone tests positive, if this season starts like they're kind of talking now, late June, early July, if someone does test positive, how do you think the best way to handle this is?
I hope it's not to shut the entire thing down. I don't think, but it would.
There's an argument to be made to completely eliminate that entire team and staff. Because certainly the way the locker room plays out,
Right.
there is potential for spreading that all over the place if that one person tests positive.
But didn't I get that. But didn't a Yankees minor leaguer during spring training test positive?
Right.
That didn't blow up into. So I'm assuming
that we're aware of.
That's not part of the 5,600, or would it be?
I don't know that. I'm not sure.
So I don't know. I hope it's not. That doesn't seem plausible, really, to eliminate the entire team.
But how can you go forward knowing that someone has been?
But at that point, then are you going to eliminate two teams? Because if say it's a player and they played a game together, they're in proximity,
right?
At some point, I would imagine. So hopefully hopefully it doesn't happen. It's not going to. It'll be a non-issue. But I would imagine if it does happen, I'd hope they don't go overboard. You just saw in the UFC, Jacare Souza tested positive.
Right.
He withdrew. Two of his cornermen now they're not, the smaller teams. I get it and everything else.
They were on an island essentially, right? Able to.
They weren't before that. Where were they at before that? I mean, you're not going to fix it. You're not going to. It's a virus. It spreads like the cold, apparently. So I don't. If you're going to shut down an entire team, if you're going to eliminate an entire team, then I mean that's really pretty silly. You might as well eliminate the entire league then, and cut it short.
It absolutely throws a giant wrench into everything. I think this is a big question going forward, and they are really going to have to nail this down before they decide to go forward with the season, right?
Well, I think that's why they're waiting till. I mean, we're May 12th. It's not. They're saying July 4th weekend, right?
They've always discussed late June, early July. They got to provide some kind of ramp up spring training, 2 to 3 weeks. Everyone's been talking about 3 weeks. So
3 weeks is way too long. That 2 weeks is plenty. I mean, they've already gone through a.
Tell that to a pitcher who's going to blow out his elbow tomorrow.
Well, they're going to do that anyway.
Maybe.
I mean, I heard June 1st initially, but I mean, I think if you're waiting into July, I mean, allegedly warmer weather, without getting into the, what the schematics of it, I guess, or whatever you want to semantics. I think they're waiting long enough. They're only going to play 80 games. I think that's good enough. Hopefully it doesn't happen. It's a non-issue, like I said. If it is, I don't know how you can just take. Oh well, that team is out, and we're going to rearrange the whole schedule, and that's going to skew the standings, and then we're going to do this.
There is so much.
You're just going to have to scrap everything at that point.
You're right. But there is so much uncertainty with this thing. I do question how they're going to go forward. Like, I do believe that the owners and the players union want to extrapolate as much money as they can from this season, but we've already seen players tweet out that they're not willing to risk their lives and families' lives and such in order to do so, right?
Well, first of all, the families won't be with them, or allegedly, right?
Do we know that? That's again, it's just another.
I would imagine if you're gonna.
Are you keeping Mike Trout from his newborn baby? Right. That's what I'm saying. There's so much uncertainty with this thing. I find it both terribly difficult to go ahead and hit the go button on this, and at the same time not do it as well. I feel
this is going to sound cold, but Mike Trout is getting paid close to $35 million a year to be away from his baby.
Oh boy. I mean, you would have missed that day.
That's a perspective. I think
you would have missed those 3 days in your life.
No, but for the greater good of sporting entertainment. I mean, what are we, Norman Chad?
Certainly not. Certainly not, right?
But I mean, yeah, no, these are all tough decisions. I get it. But you spend 6 months basically on the road anyway, in a regular and under normal you spend at least half that almost under normal circumstances. If you really want, if the league and the players are really worried about getting their revenue piece of the pie here, there's going to be some sacrifices made. I mean, the league can't control who's had a newborn. Mike Trout's not the only one with a newborn baby, right. I'm guessing. Right. So of course, I'm just saying he's getting paid an exorbitant amount of money to probably make some sacrifices. That's what comes along with making that much money.
So on that note, okay, Ken Rosenthal did report that the MLB owners have submitted a proposal to the players' union today. Okay, that has happened. They have been talking about that. I believe the meetings did occur today. I think there's going to be some sort of announcement. There's already been some bickering back and forth on Twitter between the players, and it doesn't matter what side you stand on that. That'll probably play out for the rest of this week. Okay, but at least they are talking. They are going to work it out. It does, in my opinion, it has to happen very soon. Again, for the spring training to happen, right? They have to ramp it up somehow and then get this thing going.
Yeah, I mean, they're on the clock. I mean, this is going to be probably quicker than anybody wants it to happen. So it is what it is. What it is. It is.
There's some very tough decisions. I do not envy anyone that has to be making them at this point. Okay, well, let's go ahead and make this fantasy baseball relevant again. We have talked about it. Does appear to be an 80-ish game schedule, basically in 90 days. Okay, so we're talking about a very crunched schedule, very few days off. Ben, does that change anything you're doing in fantasy baseball?
Well, I mean, it probably will. We talked briefly. If you're drafting still, I mean, you're probably going to be okay taking pitchers that would normally have the innings limits. You know, the AJ Pucks of the world, Luzardos, you name it. The guys coming back from Lance McCullers, guys that would be babied are probably going to benefit under this scenario. So I know you were mentioning loading up on pitching. That's probably wise. So that's going to skew draft boards and probably strategy moving forward. I'm already down a potential ace type of pitcher, as we've mentioned before, with Syndergaard's stupid effing butt banging surgery.
Medical team.
Huh?
There had to have been some sense of this, right? There was no news. It just blew all of a sudden.
Zero news. Yeah. If somebody out there heard something, I want to know, because I didn't hear shit about this. And that's what pisses me off. Basically, it's like, well, I could fight through this probably if it was a full. I guess I don't understand the mentality. A full season, I would have fought through it, but this is already. I guess you're looking at it. Well, this season could just get scrapped. If I'm going to do it, might as well do it in where half the season is thrown out or more. Okay. What? There was just no indication at all. So anyway,
Right.
my point is, the leagues that have FAB, I'm probably going to blow my wad on the first starting pitcher phenom that's going to come up and pay through the nose for it. And this is a big damn nose. So
Yeah.
that's definitely going to affect me. There's other guys out there that drafted Syndergaard. So here you go.
Well, that's another point I'm going to make later when we talk about closers, right? When it comes to FAB and just addressing closers, when it comes to these extra or less days off, right? We've seen these closers go on a run where they pitch like 2 days in a row. Managers in general do not want their guys to go 3 days in a row, right?
That's just crazy. 3 days in a row. That's crazy talk.
It is what it is. But vulture saves in 2020 are going to be more prevalent than ever, is my point, right? And I think people are going to bury themselves and just continue to go, oh, well, this guy got a save last night. He's the next guy and stuff like that. And I think that's going to be a huge mistake in 2020. Well, looking back, I think that's going to be a tremendous mistake. Okay. We can get into that a little bit later. But I do believe, and you alluded to this too, with fewer days off, okay? We're talking literally 10 days and essentially 3 months. I have no idea how managers are going to use their expanded rosters, but I have created my fantasy roster to go like this. I have very little bench bats. I'm expecting those guys who want to win, those teams who are in the sprint, who are intending to win, they're going to put their best foot forward each and every day until they're eliminated. So I think those best bats are going to play. They are going to be in the lineup like 6 days a week, almost steadily throughout the season. So as far as my fantasy roster goes, I'm not carrying a lot of bench players on that side. I have loaded up. I have drafted a ton of starting pitching, okay? Because we know those guys, more volatile. We talked about a million times that the starting pitching or pitchers in general are more volatile. If I'm going to lose those guys like you already have, you're already facing this deficit as starting pitching, I want to have a very deep bench, right? So that's the way I've addressed this.
Yeah, and I can't remember which league, but as it went on, I think pitching, as drafts got further in, closer to the season starting, you saw pitching come. Teams were more pitching heavy anyway. I think people were gravitating towards that type of a strategy anyway.
Yeah.
Your shallower leagues, or you probably won't have too much of a problem. I mean, you're going to be probably piecing some stuff together, but man, I'm looking at some of these 15-team leagues, and it's just like Tanner Roark, come on down.
He goes on a hot streak about every year.
Yeah.
Almost annually, you can count on a 4-game stretch where Tanner Roark locks him down.
Yeah. So
I can't even believe we mentioned him today, to be honest with you.
I was scraping every last bit of paint into my watch list on some of these leagues, and so yeah, he came up.
That's too bad. I'm sorry you're in that position.
It is too bad. It is a freaking tragedy. It's anyway, but yeah, I mean that totally makes sense. The guy, this is going to be a sprint, so the bats, there's less days off for these guys, and rightfully so. You got there's your foot's on the gas the whole time here. 10 days off in 90 days. I mean, in 3 months. So
the other side of that. And you do very well at addressing and pointing out the platoon players and whether or not you stay away from them or not. I think in 2020 with the expanded rosters, if Brandon Lau isn't slugging at all left-handers, he's out. he's out. They're not even going to mess with that, especially the Tampa Rays, right? So the platoon players, more than ever, these other kids, whoever they are, whether they're top prospects or not, these other guys are going to get those at-bats, I believe, in those platoon situations.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd still be okay taking the right side of the platoon. I mean, if you get stuck with somebody, a Howie Kendrick comes to mind. Well, let's see. I mean, he didn't have the splits, but I think he only primarily played against lefties.
Right.
But that's one. There's other guys out there. I'd be okay getting a right platoon guy like a Lau. Because those days he mashes righties, so your probabilities are okay. You're probably going to have you're not going to have zero bench bats, right?
I don't intend to, and currently, well, in our Flames League right now, I do have 0 bench bats. Okay, I'm going to ride or die early in the season.
That's just dumb.
we'll see how it goes. That roster in general is only 22 deep. I think it usually runs 23 deep, so it's a little smaller anyways. But I did load up on the starting pitching. There's a ton of bats that I do like anyways. Yasiel Puig hasn't even signed. I fully expect him to sign somewhere. I think that's ridiculous, and the fact that he's just unowned in our league is kind of ridiculous. But that's getting into our league is something else, just at the least, right?
Are you talking about our friends league?
Right.
I thought somebody. Okay, yeah. I know he was drafted in other leagues.
No. Yeah. Well, right. In our TGFBIs and all that stuff, he's long gone for certain.
Yeah. I'm not that surprised.
Ben, we're about 26 minutes in, and we didn't open the bar yet.
Oh well.
I got you.
I already
got you.
Okay. Well, you go ahead. Oh, that was a good one. Such a good sound. Oh, yeah.
I picked up a local beer today. I told you about it before we got started. From Distill Brewery, the Hawaiian 5 Ale. It's a blonde ale with pineapple, coconut, mango, peach, and guava. It's good.
Yeah.
It's tasty. On one of those terribly hot, humid Central Illinois days, I think I would enjoy these a lot.
Well, yeah, we haven't had one of those yet, but yeah, that's some good local fare founded in Normal, Illinois. And I've got my my maple. This is about the last week or so. I'm probably going to be able to want to really drink the maple ale funky brew.
The pancakes
hit
me right away. The first time I tried your what'd you call it, maple ale?
Maple ale. Well, we call maple A.
Yeah. Man,
gotta get the Canadian A. Oh,
I needed a triple stack with some hot butter immediately. Yeah. Like, it was delicious. It hits you right away. I look forward to that immensely. Yeah,
great, good stuff.
All right, we're gonna move on. Like I alluded to earlier, we did short you guys big time when we talked to closers. There's so much uncertainty at this position. We do know there's generally a 40% turnover year to year, and this year, as I kind of discussed earlier, the vulture saves in 2020 might be ridiculous. I do not want you guys to overreact to this sort of thing. Okay, now I went ahead and did kind of break these guys down into tiers somewhat. I did not follow the standard what everyone else had been talking about, so I'll be interested to see how you feel about that. But we'll go ahead and get started. These are my lock it down guys. When these guys come on in the 9th inning, I'm basically piddling my pants a little bit if I'm in that batter box. I'm a little terrified. And as far as fantasy baseball comes to terms, these are the guys that I really want to own, but I don't necessarily have a lot of shares of these guys because I'm not necessarily willing to pay that price. It starts number 1 with Josh Hader. Now, I know a lot of people have talked about Josh Hader, the Brewers not wanting to utilize him in the closer's role. Okay. Regardless of the fact, I do not think Corey Knebel is just going to be gifted the closer position right away. Okay. And even if that worst case scenario happens, Hader is good for a boatload of strikeouts and multiple innings. You'll get great ratios out of him regardless.
And like you said, there's probably going to be, even if it's, there's going to be a lot of committee type setups. I think at this point, especially with this expanded rosters, most managers I think are going to want an extra reliever on the roster to begin with. He's still going to get saves at some point. Yeah, they want him to be an Andrew Miller type and just pitch 2 innings every time out or whatever it is, but at the end of the game, you want your best damn pitcher out there, and he's it.
Right.
Knebel ain't it. And they tried him. They tried Jeffress for a while.
Junior Guerra had 8 blown saves in 2019.
Wow. That I wasn't even aware of that. And those had to be his off days.
I think that might have been when Counsell.
He pitched the 9th, the most he had ever last year, right? I thought.
Josh Hader did. You're correct.
Yeah.
What was happening? They didn't just hand it over to Hader initially, right? Counsell utilized Hader in that same manner in those critical innings, whether it was the 6th or 7th or 8th. He did try to give it to Junior Guerra, and he didn't get it done. And then eventually he must have just gave up and gave it to Hader.
Right. Well, and I want to touch on that. I've the Cardinals have talked about this, and I've read some good. Derek Gould has touched on this numerous times, and about how managers now. The big thing is that you want your best guy in the toughest situation. So if the top of the order comes up in the 8th, shut it down. Okay, I get that, but for whatever reason, the anecdotal, I would argue, the end of the game is, I don't care if it's the bottom of the order. The end of the game, for whatever reason, it's the end of the game. Those are the hardest outs to get. I don't care who you are or where you're at. Why don't you want your best guy in at the end of the game? And
there's a certain mental savagery that comes with being a closer, right?
I there's some truth to that, in my opinion. I think there's whatever you want to call it, the added pressure of getting those last 3 outs speaks for itself. It's hard to freaking do. So, and obviously Counsell try, that's a great example. I didn't realize that was that many blown saves I don't know why. Well, Knebel was hurt. That's why.
Yeah.
Right.
Knebel blew out his elbow. Tommy John
Jeffress was too, right?
Yep.
And then he ended up going somewhere else. Anyway, there's your anecdotal evidence right there. It's like, whoa, nobody else is getting it done.
Right.
This guy will.
Right. I think Hader, and when we talk about Knebel coming back off the DL, I think there's already people that have drafted him or have picked him up. We know that you can gain your velocity back through rehab and whatnot, but what is the last thing that comes back to you when you're talking about coming off Tommy John? It's your control and your command. Corey Knebel already had problems with his control and command. He's had one breakout year. I don't like that at all for the Brewers. I think Josh Hader is going to have it.
Right. I would agree with you. I think control. There's a lot of guys that throw gas and that have thrown gas and can't locate whether they're hurt or not. I mean, control is the toughest part of the game, whether you've had an injury or not. Anyway, what do you got going on there?
No, we're good. We're good.
But yeah, I don't think Knebel has a shot, to be honest. There's better vulture opportunities out there than the Brewer situation. And so like you said, this is going to be a sprint. You're going to want your best batters on the field. You're going to want your best end game dude out there.
You do not have time to experiment.
You can't fuck around.
Right. So I did put on the ticker in 2018, Josh Hader gave up 10.6 barrels. That's like bottom. In 2019, 12.6. It got worse. He's trending worse. Okay. So what happens was when that fastball hits the middle of the plate, it goes a long way. Are you concerned about that at all?
100 miles an hour.
Right. Exactly.
That's called physics. And I'm fine with that. there's a lot of guys out there that happens to. I think Syndergaard was actually one where when he was barreled up, he had a long ball issue. Bieber's another one.
Right.
When they're barreled,
finds the plate a lot.
Right. When they're barreled, you've got an issue.
I did find that interesting, so I did want to put that up on the ticker. I also am not concerned about it whatsoever. I think his K percentage is somewhere near 50%, 48-ish% to be exact. Yeah.
Yeah. And the only 47.8. The only ones we can get into these guys later. There's only two other guys that are even sniffing even close to that.
Right. So I think we probably went a little long on Josh Hader there. We got another 30 to 40 guys to talk about, so we'll have to breeze through. But Ben, I know you wanted to talk about Kirby Yates. He was the only guy in MLB that got 40 saves last year, 101 Ks in 60 innings.
Yeah, and here's my overall problem with closers these days. Other than the lockdown guys, I mean, you talked about Hader. I would imagine Chapman's on that list if I had to guess. Jansen could be still, maybe. I mean, he had a heart arrhythmia issue. I would still throw him on there just because that was an anomaly, I hope. You just don't have a whole lot of these guys. Yates seems to be, I mean, he's done it for a year and a half now, basically, right?
He's steadily gotten better and now been gifted, the closer role in San Diego. That team got better, right? Their pitching staff is a year more mature. You liked Nelson Lamet to break out, even though you didn't necessarily like his ADP price. We know Mackenzie Gore is coming, right?
Who'd you say? What?
I don't know. I don't know. It sounded like Chef Boyardee, I think.
Well, no, I've never heard you talk about Mackenzie Gore before. I just want to see. I want to hear the name one more
time. I'm a fan. I think he's going to get it done. Okay. But he was Kirby Yates was the only guy in MLB to get 40 saves. And then I found another point when I saw the blown saves on Junior Guerra, Craig Stammen was right behind him. Craig Stammen, San Diego Padres, he had 8 blown saves. So arguably,
right? How many attempts? 8?
I didn't see that. I didn't look that up. I apologize. But I'm just saying Kirby Yates could have went well over 40, right? They probably sat him after he got a couple in a row. They gave the ball to Craig Stammen. They lost those games, maybe, potentially.
But I would imagine because Yates was he is, I guess, what you'd call the lockdown guy.
Absolutely.
The issue I have with that, a year and a half of high leverage situations. This guy's north of 30 now, right? Or right at it.
Is that right? I'm not sure.
My point is Edwin Diaz had phenomenal stats in 2018. I mean, they were crazy good. And I'm looking at, and so I started at, again, the K to walk ratio, because I want to see guys that strike people out and don't walk people. Kirby Yates is number 3 on there for the qualified relievers at 7.77 last year. You know, he's one of the guys. He's a 41%. The other 41%er K percentage is Nick Anderson. I vaguely remember Diaz had phenomenal numbers last year. And I'm like, this guy's, it was basically his first full year as a closer. I think it was like 50 some saves then he got traded to the Mets. Well, the Mets are better than Seattle, but I was like, he's going to get a lot of save opportunities there. And he did, really. He gave up a crap ton of home runs because he got barreled up on the fastball. Now, his numbers are still really good, other than his ERA.
Do you think this is a juice ball issue with Edwin Diaz?
No, I think it's him. I think it's him not locating his fastball correctly, if I had to guess. But guess what his Sierra is?
Ooh.
Or what was?
I have no idea. I'm going to throw out 2.78.
You suck. 2.63. Thanks for stealing the thunder. You're such a jack.
Gah.
His ERA is 5.59. I mean, huge discrepancy. These small, so it's like this stuff is almost like a grain of salt type of thing. It's such small sample sizes. That's why you want these lockdown guys are even more important today. I got made fun of because I grabbed Chapman last year, and look what he did. These, I mean, because oh yeah, he's got a creaky arm, or whatever. Look, the guy knows how to pitch. He's been doing it for years. Now, I don't know what happened. I would almost be more. So here's what I did. I want to touch on Liam Hendriks because he has phenomenal stats. I mean, he's a 1-year guy, 13.2 K per nine. I mean, incredible strikeout capabilities. He stranded 87%. So that's just kind of stuff that makes me nervous now. I mean, his ERA, his FIP was all in line. His ERA was 1.63. His SIERA was 2.48. 2.48. Now his ADP, I took Diaz as the number one closer last year in a league, and I paid through the nose for that. I was able to get Hendriks much further down this year, but it's the kind of stuff that makes you go kind of sick. It's almost like a trade when the market's crashing. It's like it makes you sick to your stomach. Do I really want to do? I am so. I don't even know if I can give good advice on these guys. Yeah, these numbers are great. I can throw out all these numbers. His K percentage is 41%. Not Hendriks, but Yates.
This speaks to the volatility of the position.
Right.
Where did Liam Hendriks come from?
There's nothing to go, well, I guess there are some things. So strand rates, left on base percentage. Yates was at 80%. Taylor Rogers is another good. He's at the top of the list for K to walk ratio, which is my favorite ratio. He gets the strikeouts. His ERA, his FIP, his xFIP, and his SIERA were almost across the board identical
in 2019.
So what's not to like?
That's really interesting. Okay. I'm going to talk about this last tier, or this very first tier that I've termed locked it down. Okay. Because Liam Hendriks could make that leap into this tier with another good season in 2020. I like the Oakland A's a lot. I like this team a whole lot. I should have made some bold prediction on the A's in 2020. But I think he could make the leap into this if he has another good season. But who's in it right now other than Hader, Yates? It's Roberto Osuna for the Houston Astros, and then Aroldis Chapman, like you touched on earlier. This guy continues to get it done despite that fastball trending in the wrong direction.
But it's trending from 100 miles an hour to 99.
101 even. 101.
Okay. Well, I mean,
101 in 2016, 100 in 2017, 99, 98 last year in 2019.
And really, it's the slider that's the bread and butter, right? That's where he's getting the Ks on. I mean, if you've got a wipeout slider and your fastball's 99-ish, I think you're going to be okay as long as you can locate stuff. I mean, I think more of an issue is his walk rate. Didn't his walk rate spike or a little bit or no?
I did not check on that. We don't have to touch on the guys too much. We've already gone way too long on the first three guys, right? But that was my tier break. That was tier number one for me.
I wanted to ask about that though. So you're putting Ozuna ahead of Jansen. Now, like Jansen's off your tier one. Then I mean
Jansen is tier two, the very first player.
Okay,
because again, he is kind of arguably trending in the wrong direction. We can go ahead and talk about him now. In 2019, 3.71 ERA, 1.06 whip. This is his worst year as a professional, a 1.06 whip, 33 saves. We know the Dodgers are going to bring it every single year, and he's going to have those opportunities. But his exit velocity was still top 2% of the league. That's for Kenley Jansen. So he's inducing weak contact. His hard hit percentage was 26%. This guy could still get it done. And he's one of those guys that said, you know what, I need to get better next year. And I think we already talked about he went to Driveline. He's like, help me, fellas, help me. So I like Kenley Jansen to jump back big time in 2020.
Yeah, I do too. I actually have a couple of shares of him, and because here's the other thing, like it or not, throw the numbers out. Well, you pull these numbers in, throw the stats out, and pull in the salary. If you're getting paid to close, you're probably going to close until you've reached rock bottom. And I mean, the teams don't pay guys to be a middle reliever like that. So, and unless you're an Andrew Miller, I guess.
He had very long leash last year for the Dodgers in 2019. Like I said, he did have his worst season as a professional. Okay, and
he also had an anomaly medical issue. So,
right,
for that reason, I like him to come back as well. I get the numbers. And I'm going to touch on something else if we have time for this later. But sometimes you got to go with your gut.
Okay.
Sometimes you got to do the Justin Long.
Yeah, that's entirely possible that you're right there. But I did. Taylor Rogers is straight sinker slider. Okay, it's like 50% sinker, 30% slider, 90 Ks for the Twins. I like the Twins a lot. I like Taylor Rogers a lot. He didn't get that position until later in the season, right? It was late May before he was like. He still got like 30-some saves.
Right. And it was like they didn't even want him to have it when he had it.
It was like, weird.
Huh?
It was weird.
It was really frustrating. I actually picked him up. I'm like, this guy. I looked at his numbers. I'm like, wow, this guy is unhittable, and he's not getting the opportunities that it wasn't Trevor May. Who the hell was he in competition with? But
oh boy, it was even worse. I would have rather had Trevor May. Yeah,
Trevor May had some good numbers.
Peripherals. Yeah, you're right.
Right.
My point with the Twins is they've actually went out and spent money for the Twins. They've signed some starting pitching. They made moves for starting pitching, which they knew they needed to address in order to battle the Yankees in the playoffs or whatever it may be. But I like Taylor Rogers a lot this year. I actually have 0 shares, unfortunately, but I think this man could be a potential 40-save guy in 2020.
I read, yeah, I liked him too. I got scared. I forget who put it out. It was probably Rotoballer put out a scare piece on him for me where he was, I want to say his hard hit is not good or something, or he gets barreled up. He's subject to the susceptible to the long ball.
Okay.
But again, so are the hater types. I don't think Diaz is going to give up that many home runs again this year. Edwin Diaz. There are guys that from year to year could have some issues like that. If they don't get extremely, a little bit lucky. Taylor Rogers, by the way. Oh no, I'm sorry. I was going to go to Emilio Pagan. Never mind.
So in this tier, I have Kenley Jansen, Taylor Rogers. You already touched on Liam Hendriks and Edwin Diaz. Okay, I like these guys a lot. These are the guys I'm probably most willing to buy. And then Hector Neris is my guy in this tier. Okay, I think Philadelphia is going to bounce back. Who do we know is gone from Philadelphia? Your favorite manager in history of baseball, Gabe Kapler, gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and Neris still isn't that great.
2.93 ERA, 28 saves. Sir Anthony's not coming back for a while. They don't have anybody else. It's going to be Hector Neris going forward. And I think this team's just going to play better baseball in general. I know that's vague. I know there's no numbers there. They had a down year. They did increase or get their starting pitching better with the addition of Zach Wheeler. I think Philadelphia can make moves, and Hector Neris can be the beneficiary.
Possibly. His FIP was 3.83. His ERA was 2.93. Again, small sample size type stuff. And I think he was sent down for part of the season, right? I believe.
That must have been early. Who
It
knows?
was early
what
on.
going to do with his roster, right?
Yeah, and that's now San Francisco gets to deal with that bullshit.
Yeah,
Good. And, well, they don't have Tony Watson, right? Is the lead guy
in
there?
San Francisco. That's what everyone's speculating. Correct.
Okay. Gabe Kapler, do your shit. That's right up his alley. He's got a bunch of no talent turds on there. Sorry, San Francisco relief, but relative to the rest of the league, nobody's proven themselves. Tony Watson maybe got a few saves in Pittsburgh at one point, but this is Gabe Kapler's bread and butter, and I wish him the freaking best.
What
Gabe
a headache,
Kapler. You idiot.
Moving on.
Anthony Dominguez closing the entire time, but you were too stupid. You thought you were too smart.
Wow.
And you jacked around with it. Thanks a lot.
He still sets the fire for you. He still sets the fire.
I don't know if I'll ever get over it. It's going to take me probably another year. I'm just going to laugh from the San Francisco. I mean, like, whoever just going to try and do the closer thing in San Francisco.
I'll be fine.
From the fantasy baseball perspective, go right ahead. Roll the dice.
Will Smith was amazing in San Francisco. We'll get to him later because when he got to Atlanta, not so much. But also in this tier, I like Brad Hand, right? We know the lefty has done it for a while. His splits are concerning, though. Let me give you the splits. He had 23 saves, 55 Ks, a .99 whip in the first half, 11 saves, 29 Ks, a 1.70 whip in the second half. I think his ERA was near 5.5 in the second half, 5.40 to be exact. Ben, are you confident going forward with Brad Hand in Cleveland?
No. I mean, this is, it's tired arm. It's tired arm. Tired arm.
It did. They repeatedly use that excuse.
And then the career is over. I mean, look, we got zero indication about Thor. This is an indication. This is a alarm bells. If you ever seen Lost Dog and Two Smoking Barrels,
here we go.
And the guy brings his girlfriend back with a bag of. You've got a bag of fertilizer. Alarm bells are ringing, Willie. They're going off. Lay off a Brad Hand.
This is a scary one. We do know that what is his name? Emmanuel Clase was he got an 80-game suspension. Yeah. I don't know if it was PEDs. I don't remember what exactly got suspended for. People were speculating on him to take that closer role. He was the prime piece in the Corey Kluber deal that came over from the Texas Rangers. Now people are talking about fireballer, the Karen Shack. Okay, this prospect, I think he's still young. I don't even know if he's broke the league yet, but people are talking about him now.
Totally unproven. And the other guy's Nick Whitgren. I mean, he's next in line in a lot of the depth charts. So I mean, might be a guy to look at. I think Hand is in trouble.
I don't blame you there at all. But let's move on. This is going to surprise you, I think, for coming from my second tier, but it's actually Ken Giles in Toronto.
That's a little surprising.
Is there anybody else in Toronto? I think he's going to get 30 saves by default in Toronto. Write it down.
Well, I'm going to write that down. 30 saves, Giles. I totally overlooked him.
2019, 1.87 ERA, 1.0 whip, 53 innings, 83 strikeouts. He pitched very well in 2019.
So what was the issue? Why? What wasn't there?
I think everyone remembers him walking off the mound in Houston and punching himself. Jesus.
Yeah.
It was unreal. I wrote him. I did. I wrote him off. I had no shares of Ken Giles in 2019 whatsoever. I had no idea of those numbers.
So he's in the top 20 in the K per walk with a 4. He's almost at a 5.
Which you like.
Which I like. 14 K per 9. Right at 40% K percentage. 91% strand rate. That gives one pause. I guess if we're looking at stuff,
there's definitely regression coming for that.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to repeat that. His FIP was 2.27, but his Sierra was 2.49. So I mean, it's not that far off.
Right in line. Right. Ken Giles in Toronto. Now, if the starting pitcher in the rotation in Toronto can help them get some saves, we do like that offense. It's young. It's going to be chippy, fun. We'll see how that plays out. But Ken Giles, I do have in my second tier.
They better bring up Pearson real quick.
Yeah.
Who do you got? What do you got? They got
Arjun Ryu. You already spoke about Tanner Roark,
which he's gonna get blown up in the American League.
Let's stay on track. Let's stay on track with closers. We're already at 55 minutes on this podcast, and we've only done about 10 closers.
All right. Well, I didn't know we were going to do all of them. I thought I had a few picks. Okay, let's go.
The people need to know. My next tier is very short, okay? Because I haven't owned any of these guys ever. It's Craig Kimbrell and Raisel Iglesias. Craig Kimbrell is obviously the Cubs closer. I think he's the all-time leader in K per 9 for closers. I could be wrong on that, but he had an awful 2019 season. He had a shortened non-spring training. He came in, they signed him halfway through the season, gave up bomb after bomb after bomb.
You sit out half a season. I don't care if you were
bomb.
Which, let's be honest here, I wasn't all that disappointed by it. I think even one of those games was a great Cardinal game where he just gave up. He got lit up. Yeah.
Can he bounce back?
He'll bounce back. I didn't. Let's see what happened there. I know I had him on my radar, so I'm like, there's a bounce back candidate.
Right.
I don't care what his numbers were last year.
He's definitely coming at a discount.
Huh?
He's definitely coming at a discount in 2020.
Yes. And I that's probably a pretty good grab. He's not even that old. He's 31. I mean, come on. The guy was lights out. You're in the Central, which is probably even more relevant now because you're going to be playing. You know, you got Pittsburgh. People are saying Cincinnati's going to be good. Milwaukee's going to be okay. I mean,
again, we don't have to deep dive too much on this. I do like Craig Kimbrell to bounce back for all the reasons that you stated. For almost a decade, this guy was a lockdown. Arguably, if he's able to right this ship for the Cubs going forward, this might be one of those Hall of Fame closers that we don't really hear about. Now, I'm not going to speculate on that. I think he has the potential to do so.
Well, you just did. You just did speculate on that.
But if he rights the ship, okay, 2019 was a wash so far. I think you alluded to it as well. But on the other side of this, as long as we're talking about the Central, Raisel Iglesias. When I just say that, Ben, are you like, I want that closer on my team?
No.
Why not?
I'm not even really sure. Here's a guy that's probably due for some reverse regression, if you will, I guess. He's got a low strand rate at 78%, lower. BABIP was 316, so probably had a little bit of I mean, I don't know how the defense shapes up for Cincinnati, but he was a little bit. His Sierra and his FIP were below his actual ERA of 4.16. So his Sierra is actually 3.22. That's not that bad. I still wouldn't. What they jacked? What they wanted him to throw like 2 innings or something like that,
right?
I mean, there was a committee situation there for a while, so it's like
it wasn't a committee. Here's what happened: there was a new pitching coach in Cincinnati, and here's what happened: they did utilize him. He's the guy that came from Milwaukee to Cincinnati, so they used him in a Josh Hader manner. Those very pivotal innings, they would throw Raisel Iglesias in there. What happened was, and I don't understand it, his home run to fly ball rate spiked a little bit. The launch angle spiked quite a bit. He gave up a lot of home runs. every time I remembered Raisel Iglesias in 2019, he was giving up bombs, blowing games for the Reds.
Blowing a game. Yeah.
He still ended up with like 33 saves or something for the Cincinnati Reds. And then, like I said, they were bringing him in at different times. Jared Lorenzen or Michael Lorenzen, excuse me, ended up with 7 saves as well. So, like, he was kind of off my radar as well. But, like you said, there's some positive regression coming, and we know they've beefed up that rotation. They've made a lot of signing in Cincinnati. This might be a value closer.
Could be. He's kind of like a Ken Giles. I kind of wrote him off and didn't really give it much thought. I guess that's why we're having the discussion now. But, yeah, I mean, I could look at the numbers. Makes a little bit of sense. His K to walk ratio is 4.24, so it's above 4. That's I want to see that a little bit higher for relievers, but that's you don't dismiss it just because of that. I mean, that's pretty damn good. So,
right. This next year I got, it's called Crossing Your Fingers. Now I know you. I believe that you like some of these guys. Okay, but these guys somewhat came out of nowhere, and they were amazing. Brandon Workman in Boston, Nick Anderson in Tampa. Everyone has just anointed Nick Anderson the closer in Tampa. I'm not there. I'm not really there.
I'm especially that was one I had down. That was my 4 I had with him to talk about because his K rates are off the charts. I believe the closest to, well, actually Diaz, but I'm sorry. Diaz's K per 9 is close, but his K rate is not as close. But anyway, Nick Anderson's got a 41% K percentage. K to walk ratio is just over 6. Strikes out 15 per 9. His ERA was 3.32. His FIP was 2.35. His Sierra was 2.21. So that's even better for him. His BABIP was 350, stranded 79%. So
how about that?
That looks a little bit better in his favor as well. The issue is you have Diego Castillo,
gas.
And you have Jose Alvarado,
gas.
Those guys they have control issues as well, and I think Castillo had maybe some tired arm or shoulder issues going on there, but really talented relief corps. This relief corps is actually shaping up to be as dominant, good, if not better, than the Yankees.
Yeah,
relief corps. They've got one of the best in the game. So I'm not sold on him either. And he's got no track record. And I don't think you will get a chance to get a track record in Tampa Bay, especially this year.
Yeah.
So good luck with Nick Anderson. He's great on paper. And
I believe that the Rays are going to use Nick Anderson in that Josh Hader role, 6th, 7th. We've seen them pull their starters early or not their starters, the middle guys, right? The guys that pitch through the 2nd, through the 5th, 6th inning or whatever. I think they'll go with Nick Anderson in the shutdown innings late in the game and then go to exactly Diego Castillo or Jose Alvarado. I'm totally on board with you there. I have no shares of Nick Anderson in the TGFBI, and I think Raslam, I do have Diego Castillo and Alvarado, with like at least 1 or 2 of those guys.
And I may take. I think Alvarado is available in almost every league that I'm
super late. Yeah,
and for the lefty, I mean his 2-seamer movement is absolutely insane. Sickening. I have never seen anything quite like it. It is so bizarre. It's like watching a Fernando Venezuela screwball, except about 20 miles per hour faster.
Yeah,
it's absolutely insane. It's gonna be hard to see, and it's Tampa Bay. You talked about the platoon situations there. They got a lot of good to above average guys on that team that can platoon. The relief corps is no different.
Right, you're totally right. Brandon Workman in Boston came out of nowhere. He had an amazing season, but Matt Barnes still is in the picture there. No one's necessarily just given him that position, so I question that. Ben, I'm going to let you talk about the St. Louis situation because I have no clue. I literally have no clue what's going to happen there. But Hansel Robles in Anaheim. I absolutely love Hansel Robles. I've drafted him where I could. He came at a very good price for me. Okay. He improved his walk rate the last couple of years. And from the first half to the second half, this guy is getting better at it at late in his career. He's 29. Okay. Not old, not too old, but I think this guy can get it done for Joe Madden in Anaheim as he's improved. All right. But I want you to go ahead and talk about St. Louis. Nobody has any idea what's going to happen there. I think a lot of people have mostly drafted Gallegos, right?
I saw that happen. I saw Martinez. He's going to be a starter. I don't know if I saw Andrew Miller get drafted, but I think that's what the setup is from pundits around the globe. Is going to be a Miller Gallegos. Look, there's Ryan Helsley out there. I think he's favored by the manager who has slipped, Mike Schilt. Good Lord.
I'll never let you forget that.
Well,
I'm so glad that we're recording right now.
This vanilla, this is funky brew vanilla, and it does cloud the mind.
So I think most people are pivoting, though, on Gallegos or Jordan Hicks coming off of the surgery, right?
Jordan Hicks is the guy. The issue is going to be, okay, yeah, now he's delayed. It's probably more of the guy now, and probably going to be easier pick. But it's surgery. It's a risk. But I think without a doubt, if he's healthy and anywhere close to where he was at, the issue with him is he doesn't know where the hell that sinker's going, even if it's 100 miles an hour or more. Right. And unfortunately for Yadier Molina, neither does he, because obviously his nutsack paid the price for that one. But that was actually a foul tip. I shouldn't even say that, but it's already on the air. Anyway,
okay, let's go ahead and move on to a whole new tier. Okay, these are guys that I actually believe are the closers for their teams. Okay, I don't necessarily like them long term. I am willing to draft them because, again, I do believe they are closers for the team. We're talking about Alex Colomé on the south side for the White Sox, Ian Kennedy in Kansas City, Joe Jimenez in Detroit, Jose Leclerc in Texas, Archie Bradley for the Snakes, and Keone Kela for Pittsburgh. Now, I'm not a giant fan of this tier, but if we're talking about getting a third closer in your draft, I'm probably dipping in here somewhere.
Why don't you just throw Michael Givens in there while you're at it?
Yeah, so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah. The one I'm least thrilled about in that group would be Colomé. And I think he probably has the best K to walk ratio. I didn't have him. I didn't research him because I didn't know we were going to go through all these guys, but
it's completely fine. Look, the only challenger that anyone's ever talked about is Aaron Bummer, but his K per 9 is almost sub 9, right?
Right. But yeah. Well, so is Colomé's.
Well, but Colomé has been a steady Eddie. We've known he's closed out games for Tampa in the past. He did a fine job for the White Sox going forward. Now they are looking to make a move here. I think the young guys are coming, and they're looking to make a splash in MLB. Finally, it's been a while for the White Sox. What was it, 2006 when they won the ship? But Aaron Bummer may not be the guy necessarily. Is he any better than Colomé?
First of all, it was 2005 because Cardinals won in 2006.
Fair. Fine.
Yeah, it doesn't look that much better on paper. In fact, now you got 2.5 K per walk for Bummer. You got 2.4 for Colomé, and they're right about 8 for K per 9 on both of those. Colomé's ERA was 2.8. His FIP was 4.08.
Yeah.
His Sierra was 4.38.
It's not real pretty. Okay.
It's not real pretty. Now, his strand rate was 67. That's one of the lowest I've seen here. Bummer, his ERA, FIP, and Sierra is more in line. He was still over his He was over his skis there, and he had a strand rate of 82%, and his BABIP was 228. So probably look for some regression there too. Not a whole lot of great options. I again follow them. This would be a money play for me. Colomé is probably making too much for the White Sox taste.
Okay.
Bummer's a cheaper option. If you got two similar guys, and you're the White Sox, and you're not quite contending, and this is almost probably a lost year for them to try and do this, trade bait.
That's interesting. Yeah,
Bummer would be the guy for me on that situation.
That's a very good point. Again, we're going to go ahead and move on. I do question Jose Leclerc in Texas, whether he does have the control plus the command to get that job done. I don't know that there's really anyone else anyways. Archie Bradley, I'm not sure, is a great pitcher, but again, they don't have a lot of people to take his position. And then Pittsburgh is probably just a terrible baseball team in 2020. But there's a lot of questions in this next group, okay? I grouped these guys all together because we're talking about Atlanta, Will Smith, Mark Melancon. We're talking about the Nationals position. A lot of people are in on Doolittle or Daniel Hudson, who I like. Then we're talking about the Marlins, Brandon Kinsler or Ryan Stanek, maybe. And then in Colorado, Wade Davis or Scott Oberg. Not everyone wants those guys at all, right?
Not at all. I don't. I mean, Kinsler doesn't strike anybody out. Wade Davis. I mean, I don't want any Colorado relievers. I'm not even sure if I want them, even if they're not playing in freaking Colorado. See,
I was really I did pick up a Wade Davis share in our friends league when everyone started talking about holding down and these MLB was going to play in their spring training facilities. I thought if Wade Davis could get out of Colorado, and he was coming off, I think, a torn lat. He struggled mightily all year last year. He's a better pitcher than he certainly showed in 2019. And generally, every closer gets an opportunity at 30 saves. I went ahead and picked him up in that league, but I'm more concerned in Atlanta because this is a good baseball team, right? What's going to happen for Will Smith and Mark Melancon in Atlanta?
Will Smith, Mark Melancon, and who isn't there one other guy there?
I think you liked Luke Jackson.
Luke Jackson is another one.
Do you think he'll close?
No.
Okay.
But
we're talking about closing.
I don't think any of those guys are going to close for any length of they'll probably try to play matchups.
The reason I like Mark Melancon to win this job in Atlanta, we talked about the juice ball. Who knows what's going to happen? I have leaned heavily in my drafts for the ground ball guys, right? Mark Melancon is not a strikeout guy. He's a ground ball guy.
He's a ground ball guy. Weak contact.
62% of the time he's going to ground ball, get an easy double play, whatever needs to happen. And then Will Smith, he didn't really pitch well in Atlanta. He very much benefited from pitching in Oracle. His post All-Star break numbers, 3.72 ERA with a 1.31 WHIP. Okay.
Is Shane Green still there or no?
Yeah, I believe so. I
mean, there's another one in the mix.
Yeah.
Closing experience. You just don't know. So you're saying with Melancon, 60%, did you say 62%?
In 2019, yes, correct.
So 60% of the time.
Getting a ground ball.
It works every time.
Yeah, right.
I don't like, I mean, they have a good defense, especially if Camargo's on the field.
Right.
I mean, that could be the play there. That is such a crapshoot with a ground ball guy. If you need a guy to come in at the end of the game and get a freaking strikeout, and you're dependent on a ground ball, good friggin' luck.
That's fair. One of my bold predictions that we talked about last week on the podcast was Sean Doolittle versus Daniel Hudson. I do like Daniel Hudson to take this role and run with it. When it came down to the most important games for the Washington Nationals in the playoffs last year, they went to Daniel Hudson. That's all I needed to know. It's done. It's Daniel Hudson. Sean Doolittle, like, I know it was early in spring training, and you can say whatever you want about those numbers having there. He was having a poor spring training, okay? Now, I like Sean Doolittle a lot on Twitter. I think he's an incredible human. Okay. But I think Daniel Hudson is going to take this job and run with it.
I don't follow him on Twitter, but I would start with the money play again. Follow the money. Doolittle's getting paid closer money. I'm sure Hudson's getting paid well, but and Doolittle's going to get the first shot there. If he's healthy, he's pretty dang good. But that's always been an issue, I think, with him for his career. So, I mean, and that's another good team. Atlanta and Washington are really, I think Atlanta has more options. So that's going to make it even more difficult. You're going to have to figure out. Oh, and here's the other thing: who's the manager favor? Mike Schilt likes Helsley. He put him up in high leverage situations pretty quick and into late into the season. That's something you got to figure out. I got the impression that the manager did not like Taylor Rogers last year. It was like, I guess I got to put him in because he actually gets the job done. Well, oh shit. Well, that's because he doesn't stroke me the right way or whatever. Unfortunately, there's probably some gamesmanship that, the favored pet.
Sure.
If you've ever played sports, been on a team, there's always one of those damn guys on the team. It's like, hey, coach, put me in. I'm the guy. They exist. They don't stop existing in the pros. So there's probably some of that crap too.
Certainly, absolutely. There's one little point that I would like to make here before we go forward. I think the Washington Nationals is a pivotal point in our fantasy schedule going forward, right? We know that this team has probably 3 of the best starters in all of baseball. They're going to shut down opposing lineups almost every single day. I think the save opportunities could be there for either of these 2 players, whether it's Doolittle, whether it's Hudson, right? I think a ton of saves can come out of there with a shortened schedule as it is, or this compact schedule that we're talking about probable will happen. Either of these guys could come out 10, 12, 15 saves. So I think both of these guys are worth owning, going forward.
Yeah, probably. Again, I would start with Doolittle, but yeah, I mean, at this point, Hudson's probably picked up everywhere too. Pretty much across the board. Ben, we have 2 more teams to talk about. We've gone a little bit long here. The sad, the low, the Baltimore Orioles. You already touched on Michael Givens, but a lot of people are speculating on the young prospect Hunter Harvey. Okay. The manager there in Baltimore did suggest that he liked them in that role, a very small sample size, but he could throw gas. Okay. And I think they're aware that Michael Givens isn't the future there, right? So why wouldn't they pivot to Hunter Harvey? I thought the manager gave Givens his blessing.
Okay, that's entirely possible. I might have missed that, but I did see a quote where he did like him in that position. He didn't anoint him the closer, but there was a possibility.
Where he said he liked Givens in that position.
He liked Hunter Harvey.
Closing
for the Orioles.
Well, I'll have to look for that. Givens, I just had him. Now I can't find him. Gosh dang it. Well, that could be really bad for him, actually.
Look, we can summarize this really briefly.
Harvey. Huh?
We can summarize this really briefly, okay? If you got priced out at closer and you feel the need to must get another one, these are one of your guys. These are one of your speculative grabs. This is probably not the situation that anybody wants to be in fantasy baseball when you're talking about the Seattle Mariners closer or the Baltimore Orioles closer, whether it's Hunter Harvey, Michael Givens, Matt McGill, or Austin Adams. I don't think you want to be in this position at all. You've made a mistake if you are.
Yes. This is the end of the night. The bar is closing, and you are making a bad
decision.
Making a bad decision. Yeah. Unfortunately, most of us have been there, and this is no different. I believe I might have a share of Michael Givens in one of my deeper leagues. So I was going to try and throw some positivity his way.
And you blew it.
Blew it. You had your chance and you blew it. I blew it. But yeah, those are some just all around bad choices, bad options.
Right. He was going to say what Jerry Dipoto is going to do in Seattle. Both of these people could be traded at any point.
I was going to say, Jared. I know one thing Jerry Dipoto will do, and that will be trade wildly and without much thought.
Right. Listen, everyone, this is literally our very first attempt at a live feed. I actually think it went very well. We went deep into the closer's position, which I thought we would never do because we're kind of speculated on this position altogether. The volatility, the changeover is repeated guessing. What I do not want you to do is see a guy get a save on some given night on this compact schedule, and then you go out and spend a ton of fab just guessing on him. Okay, do your work.
Unless it's Michael Givens, 4.57 ERA, 3.34 Sierra. So there's positivity for you.
Okay,
and, that could be the I got nothing. That's it. That's all I got. That's really...
we don't want Givens. We don't want Givens. Thank you, as always, for listening. We're going to be live from here on out. I plan on doing the quick hitters. If we get a season ever, I'm going to do the quick hitters in the same manner I did last year, about 15 to 20 minutes throughout the day. Those update shows when me and Ben can't get together necessarily. There's plenty to talk about, so I'm going to burn those up. I'm going to drink some coffee. I'm going to chug some coffee, get the blood flowing, and then just crank it out 20 minutes, the little update show. But here on out, we're going to go long, and we're going to go live on YouTube. So please follow us on YouTube and Twitter at Open Bar Dudes, and then Ben on Twitter at Open Bar Ben.
Just do the Ken Giles, get the blood flowing, man. Just start whacking. Just put that works every time. I do that myself.
I was so scared for him. Thanks for listening.
Cheers.